Konnichiwa. My name is Mike, and this is the Bored Cyborg. Today I'm bringing you guys a list of 8 amazing anime from the 80s. Anime is a genre that I am extremely passionate about, but really only from 93, 94, and earlier. I've watched some stuff from later, of course, Cowboy Bebop and Desert Punk and Blood and things like that, which I really do enjoy, but I tend to gravitate to the films made in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, and of course, usually genre films, so fantasy, horror, action, sci-fi, that sort of a thing. My goal with this video is to get some of you guys and girls who aren't into anime interested, because I think I wasn't interested in anime for the longest time, and all it took was one movie, Akira, to get me into that anime world, to break into that world. And I've been obsessed ever since I saw that in my early 20s. So the way the list moves, it's not a ranking or anything like that. I basically am doing the earliest film on the list to the latest film on the list, all from the 80s, and that's sort of just the way I'm going to do it, arbitrarily. I'd love to know what some of your favorite anime films from the 80s are, or just some of your favorite anime films in general. Feel free to leave those down in the comments below, and we can get a little discussion rolling. So let's dig right into 8 anime films from the 80s that I adore. Man, that's alliteration. The first film up is a film from 1982, which is arguably my favorite year in cinema. I watched this last year for the first time, and it blew my fucking brain out of my head. Space Adventure Cobra. Oh my fucking god. This movie is insane. Directed by Osamu Dezaki, who is one of my favorite anime directors. I've only seen a few of his films, but that's all I need to declare him one of my favorites. Osamu Dezaki directed this. It's based on a manga by Buichi Terasawa. Buichi Terasawa. What is this all about? Why do I love this film so much? I'll start with why I love it so much. So, straight up, this is one of the most visually engaging movies that I have ever seen. Live action, animation, whatever. It has such a dynamic visual style. Something is always happening. It's always moving. You know, in a lot of anime where you get like a couple frames during certain sequences, this throws that shit out the window. Every single scene is moving in, like I said, dynamic. It is utterly dynamic. Something's always happening. The attention to detail is spectacular. It does things with anime that can only be done with anime, and that I've never seen in any other anime, especially of the time. Like I said, I don't watch modern anime right now, but it does things I've never, ever seen, besides in other Dezaki films, but this one, he really ramps it up. He is an auteur of an anime director, and there's no one else that I've seen in the anime world from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that has as distinct a style as Dezaki. Style is the key word here. It oozes with style. Every single frame, every single drawn animation is absolutely breathtaking and just engages you in a way that no other anime has ever engaged me before. And the story is insane. Like I said, it's based off a manga. It's not as insane as a lot of anime get from the 80s, but it's very complex, so I'm not going to really go into it, but it basically follows Space Adventure Cobra, who's like a space bounty hunter. He has a psycho gun. It's like a laser gun on his arm. That's all I'm really going to say about the story, because it would take me 10 minutes to divulge what the story's about. And it's really best if you go into this one blind, because it is such a visual and audio-visual treat to the senses, and the story is really deep at points, actually, and poignant. Check out Space Adventure Cobra. Next up, believe it or not, is another Osamu Dezaki film. Came out a year after Space Adventure Cobra. This guy was on fire. Gogol XIII, The Professional, or The Professional Gogol XIII. Gogol XIII is basically Japan's James Bond. Duke Togo, this guy right here, is even more badass than James Bond. Yes, I said it. Duke Togo is the fucking man. Dezaki brings his same visual flair to this film, albeit a little bit more reserved. Don't get me wrong, it's still dynamic filmmaking, and the animation is superb, and the level of detail is phenomenal. It's just a different story. It doesn't take place in space, it takes place on the planet Earth, mostly in Italy, actually. And it follows Duke Togo's character, who assassinates the son of an oil baron in the very beginning. He's a hitman, so he's different than James Bond, but still has the same sort of vibes to the character. You'd know what I mean if you saw it. And this film really set the standard, by the way, for what Gogol XIII would become in anime form. You know, later on we'd get a series, which is fantastic, by the way, that draws a lot from what Dezaki did with the character. Anyway, going back to the story, so it follows Duke Togo as he's making hits, and of course things get more and more complex. He starts delving into the underworld, which is something that he tries not to do. He tries to get in, get out, make the kill, get out, on to the next. But he gets embroiled with a female, of course, very James Bondish. He starts getting in over his head. Things start getting more complex, more contrived, and conspiracies, and even cyber enhancement, like Gene. There's this, I forget what his name is, but he's like a genetically enhanced creature, so there are like tinges of sci-fi elements. Now, this film is also notable for its usage of CG. That is really tough to watch, I gotta admit. Unfortunately, there are a few sequences where they're doing state-of-the-art CG back in '83, and it's pretty painful to watch. I mean, it's nostalgic in ways to see where CG started. It started with this movie, and like Tron. But man, Tron does it way better. It's like the worst PlayStation game you've ever seen. I mean, and that's giving it credit. So, check out Gogol XIII. That is the only nitpick, by the way. Otherwise, this film is perfection. When done right, anime is the coolest, most badass shit you will ever see. And this is an example of it. This is why I love anime, because it does things that you just can't do in live action a lot of the time, and it's the epitome of cool. This, Space Adventure Cobra, Akira, Ghost in the Shell, there aren't many, in terms of coolness, and that's the word, I'm sorry, like, cool is the word. But this is why I love anime so much. Gogol XIII falls right into that category. It's badass, it's amazing. Check out Gogol XIII, The Professional, and then go watch the series, which is awesome, equally as awesome. Oh man, speaking of cool, again, this is the epitome of cool. Vampire Hunter D from 1985, directed by Toyo Ashida. You know that name if you've seen Fist of the North Star, the original TV series from Japan, the anime, and which was later made into the Fist of the North Star movie, I believe in '86. Toyo Ashida created Fist of the North Star. He also directed Vampire Hunter D, which is based on a manga. Oh my god, I f***ing love this movie. This is Castlevania in anime form. Of course, it predates Castlevania. I know that the creators of Castlevania out at Konami were watching this. They were watching Hammer Horror. They were watching Vampire Hunter D, reading Vampire Hunter D. Vampire Hunter D borrows from Hammer Horror. You see what I'm saying? It's a trifecta of inspiration here. And Castlevania, by the way, if you don't know, is one of my favorite video game series of all time. The first one, the second one, the third one, Symphony of the Night being my absolute favorite. I'm so nostalgic for this franchise. Recently played Bloodstained and absolutely loved it. Igarashi's Bloodstained, which is basically a Castlevania game. That is one of the big reasons why I adore this film. It has it all when it comes to Castlevania. It has the gothic cathedrals. It has the castle that Castlevania basically ripped off. The incomplete castle with floating staircases. It has whips. It has swords. It has two badass characters, one male, one female. Again, very Castlevania-esque. Vampire Hunter D is just that. He's half vampire, half human. He's a Dhampir, and he hunts vampires. That is what this movie is about. This film also blends fantasy and sci-fi into this post-apocalyptic world that takes place like 12,000 years in the future after we've destroyed ourselves and monsters run rampant. This is just everything I love about anime, guys. Absolutely everything I love about anime. If you haven't seen it, you must. As a horror, action, sci-fi, fantasy, all of these things in one. As a fan of those things, you will love this. The creature design is phenomenal. The animation's fantastic. The color palette is perfect. It's dark. It's brooding. It is wonderful. It is Vampire Hunter D. If you like this, check out Yoshiaki Kawajiri's Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which came out in '01, I believe, so quite a few years after this, 16 years after this. One of my favorite animes of all time, Vampire Hunter D. Next up is a film from 1986 that is the epitome of fun. If you don't have fun watching this movie, you are a corpse. Dirty Pair Project Eden. This movie is crazy. I've seen it multiple times. It follows Kei and Yuri, who are the Dirty Pair, two ass-kicking female bounty hunters or intergalactic police women. And this film basically follows them as they go into as they get a heads up that a mining facility, things are starting to go weird on this mining planet, right? So they're sent out there to investigate. Things are going very strangely. It is very alien, including the creature design gets very alien-esque, or aliens more so, even though they came out at the same year. Obviously, she always reminded me of Vasquez anyway. I wonder if there was any inspiration there. But like I said, they came out in the same year, so I don't know. I know Dirty Pair existed before Aliens. Follows them, they get out to this mining planet, and shit goes crazy. There's a villain named Dr. Wattsman, who has a theme song, Wattsman! It's ridiculous and awesome. The music is phenomenal. Over the top, the rainy day and mountain mile. I don't know the words, but I know the melody. Non-stop action for 70 minutes. Two ass-kicking female heroes. Check out Dirty Pair Project Eden. And while you're at it, check out their other movies, Affair on Nolandia and Flight 005 Conspiracy. They're all fun, but Project Eden is the one to get. It's the one to start with. Dirty Pair Project Eden. Next up is a little-known anime from '87 called Lily Cat. Now, this is not one of the best films on the list. In fact, I would say it's the least of the films on this list in terms of quality. But I still have fun with it, hence why I want to talk about it. This is Alien meets The Thing in anime form. That is what this is. It is so derivative, it's not even funny, but it's an anime version of The Thing and Alien. I'm on board. It is awesome. Lily Cat follows a group of, I believe they're literally mining, a mining crew, just like in Alien, in the future, and they're all holed up in the ship together, and a bacteria, some sort of matter, makes its way into the ship and starts infecting people. And people start dropping like flies and also mutating into weird Lovecraftian creatures with tendrils. And it all starts with the cat, by the way, which is, Lily Cat. That's what the film has going for it. The animation is decent. The voice acting is pretty bad. The characters are all one-dimensional and pretty forgettable. But it's okay because they're just fodder. They're just there to die. Everything about the film is just average in terms of an anime film. And actually, the score is fantastic. It feels almost out of place, to be quite honest. It's orchestral and very heavy in terms of the concepts that it should be carrying, but it just happens to be slapped on to Lily Cat, which is just a low-budget anime film, derivative anime film from '87, but the score really stands out. It's very, very moody and really affects you even more than the film itself does. But this film is short and to the point, and it has enough monster bits in it to really keep you interested and engaged, and it's worth watching strictly for that. So if you're a fan of The Thing and you're a fan of Alien, which I know you are if you're watching this show, if Alien and The Thing had sex and gave birth to a f***ed up, tendrily morphing creature, Lily Cat would be it, so check it out. Next up is a film from 1988, the year I was born, a film that I adore, my favorite of the Appleseed films, Appleseed. This film follows, I've talked about it briefly in my 4 female action films from 4 different decades video, but I talked about the CG remake of this, which I like, but not as much as this. This is hand-drawn goodness, follows Briarios, who is a cyborg bunny kind of guy. Really cool design, but it does have like bunny ears. Actually, you can see it on the back there. And it's on the cover, which is just phenomenal artwork. And it follows Doonan, who is a human character, a kick-ass character, and the two of them team up to fight some crime in the futuristic city of Olympus. That's what it's called. I pulled it out. And Olympus is essentially this post-World War III sort of pseudo-utopia, or at least that's what it seems like on a superficial level. But as you dig into the story, it ends up seeming more and more totalitarian. There's a computer that sort of runs the city, and of course, as Dunin and Briarios sort of explore what's going on with some of the crime in the city, it's basically a terrorist plot that they're investigating, and they learn that something bigger is going on, something deeper with the city. And so that's basically the gist of the story, but it's all about the two main characters, their relationship, the action, the mech design in this is phenomenal. And the director, I forgot to mention, I always forget his name, Kazuyoshi Katayama. So he wrote the script and directed this film, and it's based on a Masamune Shirow manga. Masamune Shirow, of course, did Ghost in the Shell. If you like Ghost in the Shell, I think you'll like Appleseed. It's a very similar sort of story about government information technology sort of thing, and how they're sort of using it to their advantage and to the disadvantage of the citizens. So check out in Appleseed. It is awesome. All right, last couple here. Another one from 1988, Demon City Shinjuku. And this is Yoshiaki Kawajiri, who I've already mentioned in this video, and I haven't even talked about any of his films. So, obviously, I'm a huge fan of him. This is Demon City Shinjuku. This is a great movie, not one of his top-tier movies, but it's still, for me, a blast to watch. It is a horror, sci-fi, action, martial arts, mystic, sort of Japanese mythology sort of story. Essentially, in the very beginning, two characters, one good, one evil, are having a warlock battle, essentially. Evil wins and basically collapses or destroys Shinjuku, which is an area of Tokyo. What happens when evil takes over is it becomes like this haunted playground, essentially, with all these weird, mutated ghosts and creatures that are just thriving in this undead metropolis. So it follows the son of the good warlock, who basically finds his way into the city to find out what happened to his father and to take up the mantle that his father had in trying to bring balance back to Tokyo. And along the way, he meets a bunch of interesting and colorful characters, a really cool kid, a weird old lady, a woman that he has sort of a love interest in. Just great characters across the board. To be honest, the main character is actually one of the more, how do I say this? One of the less interesting characters. But overall, all in all, this film is a mashup of genres, and it's just a straight up like sci-fi action horror anime film. Pretty much a straightforward story. It's not very complex. It is A to B, and that's what the movie is. And I love it for that. I love it for its simplicity. Of course, Yoshiaki Kawajiri, anything he touches is going to be masterfully animated, masterfully directed, and the character designs, the monster designs. Like I said, Yoshiaki Kawajiri is very Lovecraftian in terms of his influences, a lot of tendrils, a lot of weird underground creatures. Demon City Shinjuku is great. Check it out. All right, last up is from 1989. One of my favorite anime films ever. In fact, this film's in my top 150 of all time. Any films. That is Venus Wars. Venus Wars is remarkable. This film is directed by Yoshikazu Yasuhiko. Basically, it opens up with a race. A really like roller games sort of futuristic race with these bikes with one wheel. Great design on the bikes. It's sort of mecha in a lot of ways, but great design, great action sequence to really launch this film into action. And as the title suggests, it follows a bunch of kids and even adults, teenagers, kids, and a couple adults that are caught up between a civil war that is occurring on Venus. We are, at this point in the 21st century, we are a multi-planet civilization, multi-planet species, and we've created a civilization on Venus. And of course, it already is saying something about how, no matter where we go, we're still gonna fight each other. Even if we colonize another planet, we still fight each other. And the villains in this film really have a cold and cold feel to them. You don't really see human bad guys a lot. It's a lot of mecha and tanks, and it just shows the destruction that they're causing and how it affects this group of people that sort of find themselves in the midst of the chaos when the Civil War breaks out. and how they deal with it, and trying to find some peace during this civil war. And yeah, you just really see the war through the eyes of the main characters and the effect it's having on them. And it's a wonderful movie with absolutely fantastic animation, a beautifully sweeping score by Joe Hisaishi, who you'd know if you've seen any Hayao Miyazaki films. He's pretty much, I believe, scored all of them, maybe except for Lupin. But yeah, so Joe Hisaishi's here doing the music, which is totally memorable. This is such a great movie, top to bottom. Animation, characters, story, score, everything about it. I love it. Venus Wars. I just want to thank you guys for checking out my list of 8 amazing anime movies from the 80s. I'm going to continue doing these sorts of videos to shed light on some of my favorite anime films, some things that I think fans of film that aren't anime films would still enjoy. If you're into genre films, I highly believe that you're going to enjoy at least some of the films I talked about today. And that is one of the reasons I'm doing these videos, to sort of spread the love when it comes to anime, because a lot of people look at anime with a stigma. I did for years and years. But there are some of the coolest films ever made were made in the 80s, and they just happen to be anime. So check out some of these films. I honestly think you'll be pleasantly surprised with a lot of them. If you have seen any of these films, I'd love to know what you guys think of them, so feel free to leave those in the comments below and we can get a discussion rolling, as per usual. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like it, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos like it, I sound like a broken record, hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell for notifications. Anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Bored Cyborg, out. How do you say goodbye in Japanese? Shit. Sayonara!